Hi, this is Lori Stratton from the Stratton Setlist podcast. I'd like to welcome my guest Desmond Jones today to the show, and we have John Nowak, George Falk, and Isaac Berkowitz. Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining.
Hello.
Hi,
Thanks for having us, Lori.
Yes,
Hi.
it's nice to be able to have you on the podcast, and I've enjoyed following your music. I think, John, since you and I met at an event in 2018, so it's hard to believe it's been that long already.
It is hard to believe, and I am so grateful for our friendship and working relationship, and I want to shout out to you for continuing the Stratton Setlist and also adding on the podcast, which is great, and you've been a huge supporter of local music, so thank you, Lori.
You're welcome, and thank you for that shout out. I appreciate that. And it's been a pleasure seeing all of you and your other bandmates kind of evolve with your sound and your releases. I've enjoyed the versatility of music that you've put out, and then I've also enjoyed the chance to see you live several times in the Detroit and Ann Arbor area, and you always put on a great show. You have a great fan base. You engage with your crowd. They really enjoy seeing you, and that just makes it even more fun to watch you perform and listen to your music.
Thanks for coming and checking it out in a live setting as well.
Absolutely. And I'm glad to see that you're back doing a lot of shows locally and regionally too. After the way the pandemic's been kind of hit or miss with shows with COVID, I'm glad to see that it looks like the five of you have had a chance to get out and perform quite a bit lately, especially this summer. So yeah. Let's kind of work into, with that being, how do you feel 2022's been for you so far this year with, in addition to the live shows you've been able to add and the new music that's coming out, which we'll get to, how has your year been for you as a band?
I think it's been pretty cool. It's, definitely started questionable as with everything in the last couple of years is like, what is going to be able to get done. But I think we've always been good at finding what's going to work best for us at the time. And so it was more so of just like, this is how it's going to work and let's do it. And we kind of put our heads together, started getting a lot of fun shows, finished up an album. And so I think it turned out really cool, and I'm happy with the shows we've been doing and kind of the trajectory we've put ourselves on throughout this summer after kind of all the craziness. So it's been exciting. I'm happy about it.
Yeah, and I think it's great to see that so many bands have kind of adjusted as best they can with the way the climate's been for live shows with COVID. It's nice to see when I go on social media, all the bands that have many shows going on. And now I'm back to the issue of there's too many in the same night. Who do I go see this time that I can see next time? So I'm so glad to see that. I'll say problem in air quotes again, because before the pandemic, I saw that a lot of my friends were always playing on the same night across the state. And I try to go see everybody at some point. And now I'm glad to see that a lot of that is back, at least in the summertime. I know it makes it easier with outdoor shows, given the climate of COVID and what we've been seeing the last 2 years.
Absolutely. We've been getting we've had we've had enough outdoor shows this season. I mean, compared to the amount of shows overall that we've been doing, that I don't know, that's made me kind of happy about this. I like the push for outdoor venues. It's often the sound of the challenge, but it's really just fun. Yeah.
Well, and have within your shows too, one of the things I wanted to mention is it's been 10 years since the band formed. I know John and Isaac, if I think back to when you both have talked about playing college parties at Michigan State University, go green, go white. Just the idea of seeing did you ever imagine that you'd still be around 10 years and all the growth that you've seen personally, professionally as part of this band?
Yes.
Yeah. Yes. That's one of the things I think is so special about us as a group, but also as individuals. Like when we started the project, we were all so excited about it that we went out of our ways. Some people quit jobs, some people moved back, to make our creative outlet a priority for us, not just the band, but it's really personal to all of us to be involved in the project. And I remember talking about it in our senior year of college, just sort of deciding on whether I wanted to look for a full-time job or where I wanted to move or whatever. And we all just kind of decided that we wanted to keep the band going and the music going. And that was, 8 years ago now. And I don't think any of us are surprised that I would be more surprised if it wasn't happening. Like, I'd be like, oh no, what happened? We had this big dream and vision, and like we've done so much and met so many awesome people. And it's incredible how a decade can go by, but you can still, in a lot of ways, just feel like it's starting to begin.
Yes, I think that's a great way to put it. And yes, decades go by really fast. I can speak to that. But I'll leave it at that.
Cool.
How long have you been writing your Stratton Setlist?
So that has been 7 years. I started in 2015, but I've been writing for 30 years, generally speaking, since high school. So
Yeah.
as a journalist and as a writer for companies and publications. But yeah, 7 years actually next month. So it'll be my anniversary for that. Yeah, thanks. Yeah, and
All
happy.
right.
Yeah, and happy anniversary to all of you for 10 years, because I think that's a long time for a band. And I know you've had some different changes over the years, but the fact that you're still intact as a band and you're still, out there touring and putting out music, as you look back over the last 10 years, is there any particular like insight that you've gained as a band over the past decade? Like any particular thing that you've really learned that's kind of really helped change your perspective on things?
I think at the
I
very
don't think
least,
we've learned anything.
we've learned how. I think at the very least, I don't know. It's you learn how to. I don't know. I guess interact with each other for so long. I mean, we just spend so much time in confined spaces with each other. It's like a nice lesson on building and maintaining relationships. But I don't know. It's a lot of fun. I mean, we learn you learn something new every day, and things you don't think you're going to learn, and lessons you don't think you're going to find on the road. And it's just, I feel like it's more about just like the little things that happen day to day during shows or on the way to shows, or the interactions you have with people. It's always building, and we're always learning and growing as a full unit, which is a lot of fun.
Yes. And so in
I
addition,
often feel like some of the things that we learn. Oh, sorry.
no, you go ahead. Go ahead.
A lot of the things that I find that I'm learning are just how much appreciation I actually have for a lot of the things that we're already doing. It's not learning how to do something new. It's learning how nice it is to be able to do the things that I've been possibly taking for granted. And that's not nice like, oh, I get to play on a stage. I've always found that like fantastic, and I've always like struggled to like not get excited about that too much. But it's like Isaac said, the little things, the like coexisting with like a set group of people in, like Isaac said again, a confined space for long periods of time. That is important stuff, and I don't think it often. I don't know. I feel like I've gotten really lucky for this. Desmond Jones is a band worth spending a lot of time in vehicles for me.
Yeah, I feel like I've learned so much being in this group with these individuals. My biggest personal growth has been letting go of what I thought were really important responsibilities of my own, or I went from sort of being okay not doing certain things to delegating to less micromanaging to now like being able to ask for help for myself for different duties within the band. And that has spilled into my personal life as well. Just sort of, really learning how to be a good team member, and just understanding your role in a group of people. But I also think we just got so lucky, because most of the time the reason bands break up are, is personnel issues, right, or differences like that. And other than our original bassist Johnny leaving the band, which did not come out of any sort of dramatic fallout or anything. He just didn't want to do it anymore.
Sure.
Other than that, like, how lucky did we get that we all, besides Isaac and I, we all met sort of randomly, not randomly. We all met for the project, but we didn't know each other before we started the band. And we're still best friends, and we're one family right now. So I think we just got so lucky that we found a group of people who get along just so well and are so open to flexibility and pivoting when we need to, and more important than almost anything, just having fun together. And we just got lucky, I think, in terms of personnel.
I actually talk about this with a lot of other band people. It's funny, I've not as many bands as you'd think will do, an 18-hour drive after a 2-week tour and hang out the next day, so it's kind of funny. Like, it's just, we're all really good friends. And I think that makes, 100-fold the experience better, just because of how close we are. It rolls over onto the stage, onto how we perform, onto all that. I think it's huge and really important for us.
You're reading my mind, Isaac, because when I see the 5 of you perform, I can tell there's a lot of camaraderie there and a strong connection and a strong bond. So the fact that you spent all that time together, you've been friends, you're on the road, and you still want to see each other the next day says a lot. I think we've all worked jobs or worked with people where things have worked out well or not. And you say, well, I don't know if I could spend more time with any more of those people, but the fact that you've been able to do that as a band and really bond. And the fact that I'll also say now, have you officially reached your 800th show yet? Do you know, or is that coming?
I can check. I don't know.
I didn't know if you know off the top of your head.
Consult the spreadsheet, Isaac.
A spreadsheet's even better.
We've got
Laura, you know how it goes. I might have been pumping the numbers for the press release.
That's okay. You got to round up at times. But let's put it this way: you've had a record number of shows in that amount of time, because I know
real close.
How much you perform, and then you also record. Now, do you still record all of your shows to the audio? And I know you shared those through archives on your website before.
Yeah, we've got on our website, we have like the spreadsheet with all of our shows listed, and I try to record every show that I can. Sometimes there are issues and we're not able to do it. But all right, yeah. So right now we have played 761 shows.
Oh my gosh, so you're getting there. You're not far.
I'd say within the next few months, by the end of the year, we'll be over.
I say, by the end of the year. Well, congrats. That's huge. Does it seem like it's been that many? 761. That's
seems like 7,061.
Yeah. I kind of want to go, I feel like I could almost remember every single one individually if I looked.
Yeah,
if I looked them up, if I Google mapped the venue, and I keep a tour journal, Lori, when we're on the road. I haven't done it just because we haven't been extensively on the road recently, but
right.
Anytime we were gone for multiple days at a time, I keep a tour journal, of everything, what we did that day. And I could find some really good moments. I wrote down where we eat, the random people we met, any silly thing that happened at the show, pretty much anything other than the music I wrote in my tour journal. And I'm going to send you a link to this live recordings database, because then you can kind of look through it, and you can search, by venue or song, or, if the days that you went to a show, or you can search by Ann Arbor or whatever. And
that'd
see
be
the
great.
set list
Yeah. Because I believe I've seen you in Ann Arbor and Ferndale. So definitely the east side. So that's very cool.
Big kudos to Isaac for being our archivist and making sure that all these memories and recordings and everything are kept intact.
I'm honestly surprised we have all of them. Actually, I thought we lost a bunch at a certain point, but I was able to recover a bunch of set lists, which was nice.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, and I think that's also kind of helped you maintain such a strong relationship with your fans, as they can go back and find those shows. And John, just like you talked about, they'll have certain memories associated with certain songs in the set list that you do, or certain memories of a venue, or if they had any interaction with you. I think I think that's one of the things I love about your band, is that you have such a strong engagement with your fans, and they get excited to see you at every show. The times I've seen you, and they really, and that you're really good about interacting with them on stage and just kind of inviting them to be part of that live experience.
Yeah, I mean, they're as much of a part of it as we are. It's another teamwork part of this thing that we do. I mean, we'll have fun playing to 0 people, which we've done, but obviously, if the crowd's there, we want them, to be having as much fun as we're having. So it's like anytime we can get them to feel like we're feeling is a good time.
Yes. Well, and I want to say, with this being your next album, Rays of Light and Stardust, which will come out September 1st, I really enjoyed the album, and I like kind of the shift you've made in sound. I'd say maybe almost back to more your, I don't know if core sounds right, because you have such a variety of genres you pull from, but Why Not had such a strong Americana feel to it in sound, which I appreciated too. But with this album, I wanted to kind of talk sonically about it, and just, it has kind of a heavier, funkier, and maybe a fresher sound, and I can hear some kind of maybe even some hard rock influences here and there, if I'm not stretching too far. But just, what made you want to kind of embrace that approach for this album after having done such an Americana centric album with Why Not?
It's funny because Why Not was really the only album that we were actively like, let's make a blank album.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it just because we had a lot of those songs that had been floating around throughout the years, and so that was kind of like a chance to kind of add all those in and write a couple more and fill it out. And with this, I think this came more out of just, most of these songs came out of the lockdowns and the pandemic.
Yeah,
so it was
right.
It was just this was kind of who we were when we all got back together. After being locked down, and it was kind of just like, this is what we feel like right now. And it's kind of how the band flows a lot like that, where it's not as much of a this is actively the choice that we're going to do, but it seems like everyone kind of individually ends up in the same space a lot of times, and then we can kind of take what we've created, pick out versions or songs that we created in those spaces that kind of go together on the album. And so it was nice for this one, because I think a lot of it did fit well together, and there wasn't a lot of we'll have to do this or write something else, or but yeah, it was cool. It's it definitely is a little harder and heavier than the past albums, which is fun, and I really enjoyed that. It was, you can tell that we were all feeling a bit pent up.
Yes. I definitely like how you're rocking out with the guitars and the bass and the drums and the sax, I'll say too, George. That you're really rocking out with that on a lot of the songs. No, I appreciate the saxophone. At one point in my past, I played alto sax, so I'm always have appreciation.
Oh,
yeah, I was
there.
never very good at it.
Yeah.
it was a middle school thing.
If you've got a.
But I just want to say shout out to sax players. But yeah, and I appreciate just that diversity of sound. And I always like in the past how you've had funk and you've had rock and you've had jazz, even elements of prog. So I know sometimes it goes under this whole, people will say jam umbrella, but I like the idea that you have a bunch of different sounds, and they're so fluid, and they shift from one track to the next, whether, on an album, or even more so, I would say, in a live setting where you have more of that improvisational opportunity to kind of extend the songs or change them in a live setting. But I've always appreciated that about your music. And I think your fans would say the same thing, is just how every song is different. But yet there's also kind of a connectedness to all of them too with that. So I just appreciate that with you as a band.
Thanks. And I think that comes from what we were talking about how close we are as friends.
Yes.
That it's we influence each other musically, sonically, whether we want to or not, or whether we're expecting to or not, you know what I mean? But it's just we just play well together, and we have loved playing together. So I think we each pick up kind of hints and notes and vibes of what everyone else is doing. And so when we present a song, a lot of the times I don't think we've ever turned down a song anyone has presented. So it's like we have a pretty good streak of feeling good about, or like meshing well with kind of everybody's styles.
Yes. And would you say like a lot of those influences, do those just come like, did any of you growing up have any favorite types of like genres of music? Like, does anybody kind of, hey, I represent the hard rock, flavor in the group, or I represent the funk, or I represent, the prog or the jazz? Did any of you have any of those genres that really kind of resonate with you growing up? And as you look back, Bill, that's why those influences are worked into the overall sound?
George is more the EDM industrial sound guy.
Nice.
Techno
I do like
wave.
the drum machines the most, probably.
I do like drum machines as well.
I feel for the things that came into this album, I don't feel like it was that like one of those like deep rooted interests that finally resurfaced. It was just I don't know. I feel like Chris started feeling a little heavier the last couple of years, and he bought an 8-string guitar, and he was getting a little more interested in that. Nice. And that just sort of, Chris was just feeling it, and we embraced it, and here we are. I mean, like, yeah, like the stuff that we all listen to as kids is gonna show up, but I feel like for the songs that we're writing, we're operating on a much shorter attention span, which I really enjoy.
That's a good way to put it.
This one, we just wanted to throw a little handful of Beavis and Butthead in there.
Yeah.
There's something I haven't seen in a long time.
I think they'd like most of it. Who knows?
I think they'd give you a thumbs up. At least if I were there with them, I'd tell them they have to give you a thumbs up.
We're actually big into the double thumbs up these days.
There you go. Yeah, I like that. Yeah. Yeah, there you go. As we all do the double thumb. There you go.
The viewer or the listeners can't see it, but
they can't see
doing
it. But we'll tell
Put them up, everybody. Put them up at home.
Double thumbs up
for the Stratton Setlist podcast
and to Desmond Jones. But one thing too, and then Isaac, you kind of alluded thematically a bit to the album for Rays of Light and Stardust. This idea of the pandemic and kind of how you kind of process that, and this album kind of being a reflection of that. And one thing I like to do with albums a lot is try to thematically think, is there an overarching, subject matter or thought that kind of connects all the tracks together? And this is kind of my interpretation, is that I kind of get this like personal and spiritual connection to yourself and to others in the outside world as you're reflecting during the pandemic and afterward, so like, did that factor in for all of you as you were working on this kind of idea of like we all had time to think what this meant to us, especially in the music industry, as we were not sure how this was going to affect us. We knew it wasn't good. But we had time to think more about ourselves and kind of where we are in life. Did any of this factor into the songs, especially Isaac and George, as you were writing some of the ones for the album?
Yeah, I think absolutely it did. It was a lot of, I don't know, dealing with like obvious challenges that we were facing and, what is the future, and kind of, it felt a bit surreal. And I kind of wanted to implement that feeling of surrealism into the album and into the songs, of kind of just like witnessing this from being able to kind of take a step back and just kind of say how strange this world is and how strange things are and how different it is to deal with things now, and the perspective of things that seem normal before has changed so much. And it just I guess, like I said, surrealism is kind of the biggest word I can put on top of it. Just how it felt to me. It just felt so, I'm in this, but I'm looking on the outside as well. You know what I mean? And trying to capture that, and also dealing with other challenges on top of that, and how mundane certain things can seem after that, or how increasingly challenging they can seem as well, on the other hand.
Yes.
But also, I think a good part of what I think we did well on this album is getting that feeling, but also getting the feeling of pushing through it and finding, you know, happiness and love and excitement and joy throughout this at the end. So I would like to think that it kind of takes you on a weird, strange journey of, you know, darkness and twists into kind of a nice, bright light ray of stardust at the end.
I like that. Yeah. I kind of liked a lot of the cosmic undertones that were used in some of the lyrics and even the music to some degree. Cause I feel like in a sense, maybe I'm going to get real philosophical here, but Please. It reminds us all of being rays of light and stardust. Cause we all kind of evolved from that. If you think about the universe, I'm going to get, you know, into I've always liked astronomy. So just the whole idea of we all kind of evolved from that. And this kind of brings us back to that. Yeah. And it kind of brings us back to that thought and this whole idea of we were all kind of processing the uncertainty, the ambiguity as to what was going on and still are, because it still exists in our lives in different ways. Maybe not as prominent as it was during lockdown over 2 years ago, but it's still there. And I feel like this album does a nice job of kind of inviting listeners and your fans on a journey of how you process that and how you try to make the most of it and give people, like you said, this bright ray of hope at the end, you know, when you listen to the entire thing. That's my summation.
You're talking about $60 basement hot tub, right?
Heck yes. You got to have that in your basement to get you your lockdown too.
Exactly. It's all part of it. It's all part of the journey.
Absolutely. That's all correct. Go ahead.
George, what about you with Bunker? When did you write that?
Bunker started as a joke, like a joke song premise, which is most of the song, like a lot of the songs that would come up, especially when Isaac and I are talking about it. It was a joke premise like for 4 or 5 years, maybe. And then things
fits
locked
well
down and
it does.
Yeah. Well, and it's a song about facing really terrible things that are happening that you are fortunate enough to be insulated from.
Yes.
While being very lonely and dealing with it by just watching a bunch of shit, a bunch of stuff on your television, which I feel like comes into play in other parts of the album, but just like the transforming from a person who relates to other people by doing things and speaking things with people to a person who just watches stuff alone, that definitely gave me like the stuff to watch. Gave me the stuff to work through to like finish writing the song finally. Well, but it's been rattling around for like 4 years.
Well, and Bunker was one of my favorite songs, actually off the album. I just got a kick out of the lyrics and just kind of the whole story it tells. And I know this is the second single off your album. We'll get to Poor Sylvester too, but since we're on the topic of Bunker, I think one of the things I really liked about it is it talks about adapting to the loneliness and monotony of pandemic life, just like you're talking about, George. And did your parents so was this bunker in your parents' house or in your house, or did this actual bunker exist, or is this more of a metaphorical bunker?
Fictional
okay,
bunker.
that's what I was wondering.
Okay,
yeah.
I wish buildings, and neither am I at this point. I wish. Oh, I want a bunker so bad. But eventually, the bands, if things go really well, will buy one of those disused missile silos in Montana or something. But no, fictional bunker, fictional premise. I do like watching Michael Keaton movies. Those are my 3 favorite Michael Keaton movies, probably. And I still have not seen Birdman.
Oh, Birdman's great. I love Birdman. That's a great show.
I know, right?
You'll love it.
I universally acclaimed.
Yes.
You can just never watch it.
No.
But I do have to admit, I can't not love a song that doesn't refer to Mr. Mom in the lyrics. When I was a kid growing up, that was one of my favorite movies.
That movie rocked.
But when my mom was still alive, she loved Michael Keaton, and we saw like every Michael Keaton movie as I grew up, and that was probably one of the first ones I remember seeing. And my mom was a stay-at-home mom when my brother and I were growing up, and so I think she could relate to that, even though it was about him being the stay-at-home dad. But I know she appreciated that, and I really enjoyed like that. And you referenced Birdman, and I was going to ask you if you're a big Michael Keaton fan, or because I just thought that it was just so cool that you referenced those movies in the lyrics.
I'm a middling Michael Keaton fan, but yeah, it's not like I have a bunch of pictures of him in my house that I tell people about or anything. But yeah. Well, and like when I was finishing writing the song, I was like, before we like have the song ready to go, I hadn't watched Mr. Mom like either. Although the lyrics fit very well, and it's a fantastic movie, and I lost my day job when the lockdown started.
Got it. Yes.
And suddenly found myself just like at home all the time. And I related very much to that character, despite not having children.
Yes. Yeah. A lot of people did with the fact that yeah.
Well, yeah.
One of my favorite.
Well, and I grew a beard and.
Yes, perfect.
Yeah,
yes. I love.
And his flannel is quite
worn.
Perfect.
I have several quite worn flannels. Yes.
Too funny. But and so for John or Isaac, did you kind of did that song kind of bring any connection to you during the pandemic as you were kind of hunkering down, whether you're in your $60 hot tub or whatever it might be? How is that song special to each of you?
Oh,
Well,
absolutely.
yeah.
Oh, John.
Go ahead, Iggy. You're good.
Thank you. Similar story to you, Laura. I remember my first Michael Keaton experience was also watching Mr. Mom with my mom, and I love that movie. It's so good. But yeah, I love that song. It's a lot of fun. It's probably one of my most listened to on the album. I think it's a lot of fun. It's got the most I'd say some of the most literal connections to kind of the vibe of the album of really being trapped and stuck. But yeah, I think it's great. I think it's one of the, I think it fits really well on the album. It's super fun. I love Michael Keaton as well, and I will use any chance I can to have any connection to Michael Keaton. So I will shamelessly blast it and send him messages on the internet until he sees it eventually, hopefully.
Yeah, I don't have like a big Michael Keaton affinity or like special memory.
John, you can't say that. What if he listens to this?
I'm scrolling his IMDb right now. I'm like,
Batman.
I probably
So
know him from
it's
something
important-
that like nobody else knows him from.
Batman. He was the first Batman
he's the
yeah,
first Batman.
first Batman. If you ever saw the one from '89, yeah.
Oh wait, Beetlejuice.
Beetlejuice. If you saw
Yeah.
that, yeah, yep.
So
that
I
too.
just recently saw, well, maybe 2 Halloweens ago, I saw Beetlejuice for the first time, and I did love that movie.
It's a great
That was-
movie.
That was
Yeah.
a great movie.
Yeah.
You just
That's a
watched the
long
first-
time in our generation and demographic to not have seen Beetlejuice.
Yeah, wow.
It wasn't what I was expecting, and I found it like almost like a feel good movie. I don't know
It
if
kind
it
of
was
is.
like the
It is.
like
It is.
the antique like quality house that Alec Baldwin, right? That he lives
Yeah.
in.
Well,
It was really silly,
The Deezus,
but
but
I'm glad that you enjoyed it, John.
I really did. And I'm sure I would like his other movies too. I don't think I've seen Mr. Mom or Birdman.
Oh, you'll so they're totally different, but they're both appreciate. It just shows his versatility as an actor. But just the idea so back to Beetlejuice, I saw that in the theater when I was 12 when it came out.
Oh,
So that's
wow.
awesome. Yeah. So my mom and grandma and my brother, we all went and saw that together. So it was just seemed to be like I said, my mom would take me to all the Michael Keaton movies that were appropriate for someone at my age at the time, because he made some I think that weren't at the time. But yeah.
When I think about this, go ahead.
Go
George.
for it, John. Oh my God. All right. So when I think about, I kind of glossed over like childhood stuff not showing up that much, but I do have a pretty formative memory of listening to the soundtrack to Beetlejuice on a tape.
Nice.
In my dad's Nissan hatchback.
Nice.
Wow.
Like as a small child.
Yeah. Cool.
Which
Like
was super fun. I loved and still love Danny Elfman.
Yeah, Danny Elfman's a great composer. He's done so many great. Edward Scissorhands in so many movies over the years that I've seen. Can't say.
I was
enough.
gonna
Danny
say
Elfman's,
like the symphonic orchestrations, like George, like did any of them have lyrics?
Oh well, I mean Danny Elfman music?
Any of the Beetlejuice soundtrack, or was?
I mean, like they had like Banana Boat song at the end, like the
Yeah, that's the most famous one that
none
they
of the
play.
Danny Elfman stuff.
Right.
Yeah. No, all the score was just like straight score music,
Yeah,
which set me on a very nerdy tone for that part of my musical.
He just performed that at Coachella.
Having a good time. Oh, really?
Oh, yeah, because he was
did,
at Coachella. He was.
He did a Tim Burton medley, and he did the Simpsons credits.
That's perfect. Gotta love that.
Did he do a full? What was the rest of Oingo Boingo there, or was it just him?
It was just him, he did. I think he did some Oingo Boingo songs, and then he ended with like a small string section, and they did a bunch of his big movie scores and stuff.
That's totally cool. I wish he'd tour and do that. That would be really cool.
I know.
Well, why don't we go ahead and hear Bunker? And I want to go ahead and dedicate this to Michael Keaton if by some chance he does hear this.
I know you're out there.
We know you're going to listen.
2 years since they dropped the bomb. I'm just down here watching Mr. Mom on a rapidly degrading VHS cassette tape. My parents built this room, and then we turned the world into a tomb. But I'm still alive with Lydia the Bride, and it's 10 more minutes before the credits roll. Please be kind. Rewind time when I'm not here, and I'm not alone. Now I find my routine has changed. Cleaning up the place never felt too strange. But the busy life that I left behind, it's gone forever now. I'm only marking time. As I start to get nuts, I don't wanna get nuts. As I start to get nuts, I don't wanna get nuts. I realize that there's nothing to be done except keep opening my eyes. Please be kind. Rewind time to when I'm not here, and I'm not Please be kind. Rewind time to when I'm not here, and I'm not alone. As my flannel thins and my beard grows out, I found a lot of things to cry about. But the loneliness starts killing me. There's no faces that I'd rather see than yours. As I start to get nuts, I don't wanna get nuts. As I start to get nuts, I don't wanna get nuts. I realize that I've never seen Birdman, and I most likely will never see
Well, so again, that's one of my favorite songs on the album. And I wanted to kind of jump back to your first single that's off the album, Poor Sylvester. And Isaac, I'm going to kind of direct this one to you. But this song I really appreciated because I think it does kind of work into some of those, at least the guitar, I feel like works in some of those hard rock influences like we talked about earlier. But this song, I think, is a great anthem for like being personally and spiritually exhausted from the pandemic and then just struggling with everyday realities in life. So like, how did your personal experiences, and I know we touched on this somewhat earlier, but maybe a bit more detail or kind of different insights as to how this song kind of represents your experiences during the pandemic and since then?
Yeah, I guess I was just, I don't know, I was definitely feeling stressed and, burnt out. And I had some, lots of strange, personal relationships ending and new ones starting. I was in the middle of moving to a new place. There was just a lot of I think it was still pretty early of Johnny leaving as well, because I think he left in November and then the pandemic started in February. So I guess, I don't know, that not as much, but still part of that. I don't know, there was just a lot of change going on in general in my personal life. And then on top of that, and kind of music is for me, I can't speak for everyone else, I assume, but it's definitely an outlet for me for, anything emotionally or whatever. And so, having a lot of this change and then needing to release it and then not being able to with the pandemic definitely caused some weird feelings and, made it tough. And I think I just spent a lot of my time in my room just writing a lot of stuff that I don't use or whatever, never, but it's just, I would just write and play music all day pretty much in the lockdown. And I think that song was probably the best formulation of how I felt in general over that whole period.
Yes. Yeah. And that kind of goes back to, I think this one is kind of really the one that ties together the overall theme of the album. This is a good intro to it. And I think this is kind of, I call it like kind of I got to get through the pandemic anthem for the album.
And it's funny because the theme of Rays of Light and Stardust as the album is different to me than how I use it, how it's used in the song itself.
Yeah.
And I don't know, because which I kind of like. I dig that the double meaning, because I like it as an album title referring to kind of what we talked about of finding these rays of light and stardust. Yep. But in the song, I feel like I was feeling more exhausted of the overjoy or the kind of everything's gonna be great. We're gonna there was just I was just kind of I can't deal with that right now. So it's. I don't know. It was funny to kind of use it in that sense. And then overall, kind of when we put it together, I was like, well, it also fits for this. And I kind of like the way it flips on itself.
Plus, I like when bands take their album title from a lyric in one of their songs. So
it's also the very first lyric too of the album.
Is it real? Oh, yeah. I think it's cool. I think it's a good, so I think it's a good intro. And then, so is there an actual Sylvester? Are you Sylvester, or does Sylvester represent anybody or anything in particular?
Definitely Sylvester the cat from
cartoons. That is probably, if we're talking where I get my influence from.
I like that. So you can't
Looney Tunes is probably my number one. There's even if you listen to Shadow of Venus,
yes,
there's some nice Looney Tunes style percussion in there.
I can hear that. Yes.
Slide whistle. And even on the cover, we worked with a great artist out of Boston, Daniel Benayoun.
Yes.
And we usually, we give him very little direction. We kind of give him the theme, kind of like what we told you, and we gave him the album. And one thing he was like, well, can you just give me a couple little words or things to be thinking of? And definitely Looney Tunes Duck Dodgers of the 24th and a half century was my number one request on there. So I was like, if you understand what I mean by this, please incorporate it. And he was like, done and done.
And the artwork that he did for Why Not was great too, to capture the whole Western theme that you had across that and the whole folk Americana, sensibilities. I like his artwork. I've been impressed with what he's done that you've shared, on social media. really talented artist. Yeah.
He makes our music look cool.
Well, and also on the track you had, speaking of collaborations, I know that's with the visual artist, but you also had Jordan Hamilton and Ashley, is it Kuistra? Maybe I mispronounced her last name. Koistra? Yeah, and Ashley, I apologize for saying your name wrong. But like, what was it like to have them kind of add strings on the song? Because I thought that was nice. You had some string players on this track in particular.
Yeah, it was super cool. We had the idea from a lot of this album, which we had bits of this, flashes of it, and why not with the newer songs? Because last album and this album, I think, are the only albums we've had that have songs we've never played live on or had been completely like we played them now, but they had at the time of recording, they were very fresh and not even really flushed out. So a lot of the stuff with the strings, it was like we had an idea and it was like, let's leave this space here and try to build and see what happens. And so we kind of listened back to the early kind of like the bones of it, and we were like, this could be a really cool addition. And I put out some feelers, and both of them came really highly recommended. And I had never met Ashley beforehand, and I think that was actually the first time she'd ever recorded or done any studio work. So it was very cool, and she was super nice, obviously, and crushed it. So it was a lot of fun to have that, and it's something new. We had a little bit of strings on Hello Hulu, I believe.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
On Pat and the Big Carrot, but this was a little more extensive. We had some more parts, and they're on 3 songs on this album.
Nice.
So.
Well, I'm a big fan of strings, and I think that just adds a lot of depth to the song, sonically, just the idea of having that. It's just, I'm always a fan of that. And I was excited to see that you had collaborated with some, Michigan musicians to kind of add that different level to that song. And, I think people will enjoy that. And I would say I'm always a big fan of saying, if you're to decide to add more strings, I'd say go for it. It works well with all of your musicianship as a band. So.
Thanks.
Well, and with that being the latest song, let's go ahead and hear Poor Sylvester by Desmond Jones.
Spiritually charged webs of design.
And coming back from that, I also want to ask about the video. So John, you talked about earlier about building up different skill sets. And now, were you the one that kind of helped put together the video for poor Sylvester at this, when you were working on that?
Yep. It was a collaborative effort in many ways. I did sort of piece it all together in the last couple of weeks, just to make sure that we had a visual accompaniment to the song, when we put it on YouTube and send it to different people, or something to watch while you're listening. So yeah, that was a big project. We've all been trying to delve into video editing and content creation just because it's so important. So yeah, that was fun. The video itself is it's just taken from so many different places.
That's what I thought was cool. It looks like you kind of put together a lot of different, it looks like Ashley's somewhere else when she's recording. And then you have, you and the band in one location. Just the idea of how you kind of put those, it turns out really seamless, but it's nice that you had all those different viewpoints. I like the viewpoints. I like the cat in the video.
Yes.
So, yeah.
Yeah, well, thank you. I'm so glad it came across that way, because up until basically the day it was released, we were sort of wondering whether or not it was going to be a good representation, for the song or whatever. But so Ashley did record in the same room as us, but on a different day.
Okay.
And that was just cell phone footage that our manager, Kevin, took. It starts with... and George wasn't actually there when we recorded the song. So the main shots that kind of have the main shots of four of us besides George were all taken because we were actually video recorded every take of every song that we did for the album. And we had all of our cameras set up and our manager, Kevin, sort of directed the camera switches because we had our 4 cameras set up, and he did that all. And so I have a big file, many files of all of our takes. So that was the 8th take of Poor Sylvester, and that's the one that we ended up using. So I started the video with that, which is actually really cool, especially for me, I think, because as the drummer, we kind of got to do the take that the drums sound good on, because everybody else has the opportunity to sort of punch in later after the fact and add solos or add harmonies or whatever. But the drums in the final version of the song are exactly what I played in that video. So it's cool to have video recording of us performing what you end up hearing. And then George was sick that day in the studio, so we knew that we could add him in afterwards anyways. And so George very kindly mimed his sax and keyboard and reverb.
I saw that. Yeah, I like that. It's got a little reference in the video too.
Yeah. And we didn't. We weren't trying to trick anyone.
Although we do like playing.
Yeah. Go ahead, George.
That is the reenactment of the cat walking on the keyboard is it has basis in real life. When trying to do keyboard parts at home, I had so much trouble getting anything done because the cats were relentless in their keyboard walking. And I didn't actually get to keep any cat triggered keyboard sounds on the album.
Darn, I was going to ask you that, but I have 3 cats, so I get it. Yeah.
I ended up having to build a shelf on the window, like off the sill of the window that was in my studio room, just to give them a place to hang out that wasn't on top of a keyboard and still be in their sunny spots. So I'm of course never going to shut them out of the room. That's not an option.
No, but I'm with you there. Yeah, whether it's a computer keyboard or an instrument keyboard, they have to be on it. They can't help themselves.
Yeah, George had sort of sent me a folder, a Google Drive of videos, and I was going through them. I'm like, okay, I can use that. And then I out of nowhere saw the cat videos. I was like, okay, George will be okay with this video as long as I include his cat in it.
And what's the cat's name, George?
Well, that one was Patty.
Patty.
Most of the actual problems were caused by Mabel, but Patty did her fair share.
But Patty made the appearance, though, right? She was.
Patty
I
did
should
it.
have I should have given Patty video credit.
Yeah. Well, and that Patty is. We might have a new song coming out in the next couple months that's mostly about her.
Nice. I'll look forward to hearing that whenever that comes
goes.
out. I'm all for like cats inspiring
stay tuned
songs.
For Patty. Stay tuned for Patty's nighttime routine.
Okay, I like that. I will. I'll look forward to hearing that one. Well, and earlier you talked about your manager, Kevin, and Kevin is also kind of your producer, right? Because you recorded like the tracks for Rays of Light and Stardust at his studio in Muso Studios in Weberville. So what's it been like to kind of work with him? I know you've worked with him in the past on other releases, but how did he really help you kind of shape this album in particular?
Kevin is great because he will definitely let his opinions be heard, but he doesn't, I guess, step in the way of what we're doing, even if he's adamantly against it. I mean, he'll tell us, but he's never going to be like, no. So it's good. I mean, we love working with Kevin. He's got an awesome space. He's our manager, and it's a great opportunity for us. I mean, we have almost essentially total freedom as long as he gives us the okay to go and work there. And so we do a lot with him. And then for this album, we kind of learned as we went for a couple sessions, and then he basically just gave us the keys and let us go in there and do a lot of overdubs and stuff ourselves. So it's very cool. It's a very kind of free experience for us to be able to create, which is really nice. But like I said, he's definitely a voice of reason in the back sometimes when we try to add weird sounds or things. He'll try to reel it in unsuccessfully, but he'll try to reel it in for sure.
Well, and how long was the recording process for the album? Is this something that you do pretty quickly within a matter of days, or do you spread this out over time depending on everyone's schedule and availability?
It's always planned to be done pretty quick, but then there's, like a pandemic or something.
That might get in the way, right?
Yeah. And I mean, because really the days of work, if you put them in a row, wouldn't be very long. But it's because we usually do about 2-3 days to get the bones, which is essentially like Don said, to make sure we have A+ drum tracks for everything. That's the most important part of those days. We do end up using pretty much everything from those sessions, but the key is to make sure we at least have the drums, because then other stuff can be overdubbed if need be. But usually we do about 2-3 days of core song stuff and get all the songs tracked. And then depending on the album, like the country album stuff, there weren't as many things. So that obviously there was still a pandemic, so it took a while, but it just depends on how in depth we want each song to do. Like for this one, we had a couple days where we did, we brought in the strings, and so we had to kind of coordinate with them for a day. And John and I actually get permission from our old high school to go and use a bunch of the big symphonic percussion. Oh yeah,
he's talked about that. Yeah, which is cool, right? Yeah, that's nice.
So we'll have to find a day and schedule that where we go in and get to use the big bell chimes.
Nice.
And the xylophone, vibraphones and stuff. But we're on this next one, we're actually going into the studio next week. And then we are hoping to get that one done, kind of have a little more scheduled and be able to do it faster now that things are moving a bit smoother. Yeah. But really, this one ended up taking almost a year, I guess.
Okay, yeah.
Start to finish, but that was with how many months of there was lockdown, and then when one of us would get sick or something, so then that was another 2-3 weeks that we would have to wait, and then we would do a day and someone else would get sick or something. So there was a lot of kind of weird back and forth with this album, but we're hoping the next one goes a bit quicker.
I would say a year total within the midst of everything that's happened is pretty quick, because some people I know went on for a couple of years off and on for the exact same reasons. Like you said, studios were shut down. Everyone took their turn with getting COVID or having some other illness and getting past that, and then finally doing remote and then getting back in the studio and then not, so yeah. I'm glad, but that seems short in the grand scheme of things. But
And
I'm
like
sure
I said, we're very thankful to Kevin as well for allowing us to be able to go in and use that studio for times that might not work for everybody, but if it works
Right.
for one of us, you know how to do it, boom, we can just go and take care of it and stuff. So that's been super helpful and really nice.
Well, and for some of these songs, I know a lot of these you play live first and then you kind of translate those in the studio. What's it like to kind of take if you have played some of these songs live before as part of your set over the years, what's it like to kind of take those tracks and kind of like, translate them into a studio setting?
I think it's harder because you come in with, everyone has different ideas of what they like about, because like you said, we change stuff up live. We improvise a lot.
Yeah.
So we'll take, even composed parts or stuff, we won't play different notes, but we'll maybe play them a little differently. We'll swing them or we'll play it slow or we'll do something like that. And so I feel like it's harder because everyone kind of has their favorite version of what we're doing instead of coming in with a new song where it's just like, this is what it is. And we're going to kind of grow with it and make it. So it's fun because you have a lot of ideas coming into it, but it can also just get challenging when you're trying to fine tune and pick certain things. Cause it's like, well, I do like this, but for an album version, this might be the best option.
Right.
But
Because
it's always exciting.
Well,
Either
and
way,
maybe
so
some of the album versions aren't as long too, because the nice thing about live is you can
That's
extend
right.
those out and improvise and kind of evolve the song, and you can change it
Right.
probably depending on the audience reaction or interaction, I should say, during those songs. So
Yeah. I mean, a good example of that is like with the song Sweater Weather on this album. I think it's about 4 minutes on the album. And I think 2 shows ago, we did a 22-minute
there you go.
Sweater
Yeah.
Weather or something. It changes day to day.
Yeah, that's what I like about your shows. Just the ideas you can hear. Yeah, the album version might be 4 minutes, but hey, I could hear like a 20 or 30-minute version, which is cool live, and it might be different the next time I hear it in another show.
Yeah, you might get a
venue.
4-minute version the next day. So
That's what I mean. So you never know what to expect, which I think is cool. and I want to visit one other track from the album, The Chase, which is the instrumental track from the album. This is actually one of my favorite ones. Again, so this whole instrumental, I really like the different sounds. Like I hear funk and prog and rock and jazz, and maybe even some 70s inspired sensibilities, so it's very smooth and hypnotic. And there's a heavy use of saxophone and percussion. It just all comes together really nicely. Like what brought this song about, and what made you want to include one instrumental on the album as opposed to another vocal track?
Well, this song was written by Taylor Watson, our
Okay.
bass player,
Nice.
which is really, really exciting because it's the first song that we've played that he wrote.
Awesome.
So he joined the band in 2019 and has been an incredible source of energy and motivation, and I just we all love him so much. He just got on so well with us. And so to hear him, speak up in practice and be like, oh, I kind of got this thing that I totally have finished. Like he was like so like timid at first, but like, of course, like Isaac said earlier, we've never said no to anyone's ideas and song pitches. So we were all just so excited to get a song that he wrote, which is great because he's played almost 100 shows with us now already. Wow. But his voice is still sort of finding its own place within our band, I think. And so to have a song on the album that he wrote is really, I think, special. And I hope he's really excited about it because we all love that tune. And it pushed us because we hadn't heard any of his original stuff really yet. And like you said, it's got this nice blend of all sorts of things. And I don't know if he has songs with lyrics or not, but I'd be happy to hear those as well. But we're excited because that puts all 5 of us as songwriters for this album, which is really cool.
I think that's cool. That's another thing I like about all of you is, pretty much most of the members take turns singing and you all write. And, so I just like to me, bands where some of my favorite bands growing up have been ones where they've had more than one vocalist, more than one songwriter, and just the idea of sharing that amongst each other. You know, again, the camaraderie, talked about the creativity. I really appreciate that with what you do as a band.
Yeah. And Taylor has brought a whole new influence and personality to our band, and we're all really grateful for that, especially me as the drummer. I love playing with him.
You need that connection with the bass player. You know,
yeah, for sure.
Yeah, seriously. Yeah. And this would be a great song. I don't think I've had a chance to hear all of you perform this live, but this would be one I'd love to hear live, and to hear kind of how you can improvise and kind of change this up from one set to the next, you know, because this song is just, again, I love instrumental tracks too. I love, of course, things with vocals, but this one, again, is one of my favorites just because of all the different influences. And it's so, like I said, smooth, hypnotic, and just very, like, I feel like it's very relaxing and just enjoyable to listen to.
Well, you can find some live recordings on our database and see what it's like.
I will do that, definitely. Well, and with that, why don't we go
Ann Arbor or Ferndale show, though?
Sounds good to me. Yeah, or anywhere east side, or if I can get myself out to the west side. So yeah, but why don't we go ahead and hear The Chase, the instrumental track from Rays of Light and Stardust.
Where we beatbox it.
As we play it, yes. Well, and with the album coming out September 1st, did I see on your website that there's a double vinyl coming out of it that people can pre-order?
That is the plan. It's
Nice.
this album's a little longer than the other ones. So
Okay.
we're throwing it on 2 vinyls. We're pretty excited. Like I said, we've got that awesome art from Daniel Benayin. So
Yep.
I'm excited to be able to put out a nice physical copy of that art.
Yes.
Make it I love vinyl. I love the whole package, so it's fun to make that exciting and have something to give the fans to
Oh,
listen to.
absolutely. So other than being available, like buying the download on Bandcamp or buying the vinyl through your store, will it be available on any other formats, or are you just doing vinyl this time around in terms of physical formats?
We potentially might have some CDs.
Okay.
But for now, we're just starting the pre-sale for vinyl.
Cool.
And then it'll be available. Yeah, it's available on all streaming services, Spotify, Bandcamp,
Yep.
SoundCloud, all those fun,
that's-
exciting things. I know George wants a big cassette tape, but I don't know if that's
I would say I'm all for, like, if you want to do a
No,
cassette
like
tape.
literally a 2 large cassette tape.
Yeah,
It's,
yeah.
Betamax.
Yeah, heck
It's on a
yeah.
we have it on VHS too.
Release your video for poor Sylvester on VHS.
That would be amazing. Yeah.
With
We'll
the-
do it. We'll do it ourselves though with the old tape, with the old recorders. So we
you
get
have
some,
to. You have to. Where it's been recorded over 1 million
Yeah.
times and it has all the
Yeah, we'll
tracking.
throw some commercials in the middle of it. and
Yep.
stuff.
Perfect. Just like my childhood.
Yeah.
And so, and I know you also tend to release a lot of great merch from your past album with the, you talked about with Daniel as the artist. Can people expect some new merch to come with this as well that they can get at
Yeah,
shows
absolutely.
and online? Okay.
Absolutely. We'll have some new fun shirts, hats. We've got some fanny packs right now.
Fanny
that are
pack,
super
yeah.
fun.
Ass pack.
Exactly.
And it has been a really fun part of having the fanny packs is yelling the phrase ass packs into microphones. That's
Like George said,
that's a
little
big bonus for us.
Well, so my husband and I went to Bonnaroo back in June. And so I was like, we need fanny packs. And I saw that you guys had advertised one and I want to get one, but I didn't think it was going to come in time. It was only a couple days before we left. And I said, I need to get myself a Desmond Jones fanny pack. So
Well, you can still do it.
I saw it. They're still there. So yeah, I definitely want to get one because then I can probably wear it at a festival the next time.
Exactly.
Well, and it's so
Was
coming
it
up.
yeah.
Go ahead.
Just last weekend, we were out at the Smiling Acres Music Festival, which was
Nice.
a big blast of a time. I'm pretty sure, was it Chris that was still rocking his Cedar Point fanny pack
Yeah,
from
you
our
was
Cedar Point band trip? We all went to Cedar Point once. It was amazing.
That's cool. You did like
And,
a team,
got
like a
fanny
team
pack.
building, like a team building day.
Yeah, we had a
We
day
had a
off.
show in Columbus and then Dayton, was it?
Oh yeah. Okay.
Or
Yep.
Cincinnati.
Yeah,
Yeah,
something
so we
weird.
had an off day between those and just did the point.
That's perfect. That's
Coaster Kings.
yeah, heck
we were
yeah.
just-
My dad grew up not far from there in Bellevue, which is not far from Sandusky, and we used to go there all the time when I was a kid in the summers, just because it was so close where my grandparents lived. So shout out to Cedar Point.
Sponsor a Cedar Point.
We'll be back in 5 years.
That's for me. It's been longer than that. I need to go back. Well, and you talk about festivals. So coming up, you've got the Cow Pie Music Festival on August 4th, and then you've got the Big Fam Music and Arts Festival on September 4th, also in Farwell, Michigan. So yeah, the one thing I like is you get out and do a lot of festivals. So what's special to you about being part of all these different festivals, not just in Michigan, but in the Midwest and elsewhere?
I think one of my favorite things about there's twofold. It's one interacting with new fans. I think is really important, especially if we're able to get onto a festival that's maybe not in our hometown or home state, and there's a great a built-in crowd, so we're able to play and make a lot of new fans and meet new people. And then the other fun part is just the hang, especially with bands that we haven't gotten to see for a while, or like you said, now scheduling conflicts are a big thing again. And so we don't get to see our other musician friends as much as
Right.
we'd like to. So when we're all playing a festival and we know a lot of bands on the lineup, it's great to see each other and to go hear other bands too, and to be able to check out music. And at Smiling Acres, we played on Sunday night and I got to go Friday. So I had Friday and Saturday at the festival with no responsibilities for 2 days.
Oh, cool. So you got to enjoy it as an attendee.
Oh, for
yeah,
the
that's
first
the
time
best.
in years.
Yes.
And so anytime that can happen is a bonus. But yeah, I'd say making new friends and hopefully fans, and seeing old ones as well. It's just a nice big hang.
Well, and with that, are there any plans with Rays of Light and Stardust again coming out on September 1st? Are there any plans for a release show or something that's similar to a release show for you at this point?
We actually have, we'll be announcing it in the next little bit here, but we've got a nice couple big tours coming up that we'll be kind of touring the album as like an album release tour. So starting in September, we'll be going, doing like kind of the mid-Atlantic and the South.
Oh, cool. Okay.
October, we'll be doing the Northeast. And then in November, we're heading out to Colorado.
Perfect. So
there'll be a handful of big Grand Rapids shows in there that are kind of be like our anchors.
Yeah.
Release on our way, or we just got back type celebrating the album show.
Nice.
So it's very exciting. We're getting ready to announce that here soon. So it'll be cool. We're really excited. That'll be our first big runs since the pandemic as well.
That's great. Yeah.
We're all really excited to get back on the road.
Yeah. The fact that you're getting all those different areas of the country is awesome. And the fact that, your home base of fans in Grand Rapids area will get a chance to celebrate with you too. So
yeah, absolutely.
So after the album comes out and, outside of those, shows you talked about across the country, what else is up next for you? Any plans to kind of like, do you continue to write, or any plans to go back in the studio with Kevin again?
Yeah, we're actually next Friday, we're in the studio. We've got our,
you don't waste any time.
No, we got to get it going. So yeah, this will be, we're excited about this one too. It should be fun, a little bit weirder, a little more kind of thematic and story based. So we're very excited. This one's kind of been in the works for a few years. So we're ready to get this one done and keep on pushing out albums, keep on making music. And I kind of, another thing I love about this band is that no one's ever out of music.
That's what John's always said.
There's never a moment where we don't have something we could play. It's someone's always got something. What was that?
Apt for like a couple of months now, but Isaac's taking up the slack. It's great.
Yes, from what John said, you've always had a good 50 or 60 songs or plus in reserve or pulled from a bank. So yeah, I'm not surprised.
We've got a big list of songs on our drive that are just completed with charts that we haven't even touched. So every once in a while when we get bored, we'll check the list and pull one out for practice and throw it in there.
Well, this is good news for Desmond Jones fans. So after Rays of Light and Stardust coming out on September 1st, look forward to even more new material. That's what I love about you guys. There's always something coming out, always something in the works, whether it's a new one or an old one or something live or in the studio. So, again,
always up to something.
Yes, you're always up to something. And thank you, John, Isaac, and George for joining me today. Again, this is Laurie Stratton from the Stratton Setlist with Desmond Jones. Have a good one.